A German philosopher named Friedrich Nietzsche once said that to live is to suffer, and to survive is to bring meaning to the suffering. Yeah, I'm going to combat that with to be mindful is to experience the pains of life without turning that pain into suffering. So, mindfulness. The definition of mindfulness is the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally to the unfolding of experience moment by moment. Now let's break that down and kind of explore what all that means. The awareness is when you can understand the series of events that took place to lead you to where you are today. So, for example, let's say you're married. If you're married, then you remember when you met your spouse, where you met your spouse, all the dates that were so much fun, and all the happiness and the good times that led you to the decision of, yes, I want to be a lifelong partner with this person. And that led up to a big wedding day. Okay, you can do the same thing with divorce. You remember all the crap that happened that led you to say, I can't do this anymore. Regardless, when you can mentally map out a timeline of events that led you to whatever you're doing today, it's kind of interesting. And you do this with not just the big things in life, but with even the little things. You do this through paying attention on purpose in the present moment. And the way that you do that is by focusing on your thoughts, feelings, your intentions. You can practice it by focusing in on your breathing, the ticking clock that's in the room, the colors that you see around in the room, pretty much anything, but you have to focus everything on it. Okay, now I had always heard, well, focus on your breathing. Feel yourself breathing. Okay. Cool, I'm breathing. So that never really made sense to me until mindfulness was explained to me. And it was, feel the air hitting the back of your throat. And acknowledge that and focus only in on that. Okay. The whole focus on your breathing, sorry to say, but it's almost kind of cliche anymore in the mental health field. So I'm gonna just kind of go on a whim here. I'm gonna take this fork, okay? When you're practicing mindfulness, you're gonna take something like a fork. It's hard. It's silver. It's got curves and a shape to it, okay? When you move the fork around, the light is going to bounce off of it in such a way that when you move it around, the light moves with it, right? Because it's metal. But when you do that, focus in on it and only that. Nothing else. Just look at the light of it. Stare at it. Your mind is going to get distracted. And that's okay. You're looking at the fork and you're in the zone on it. And then you hear the clock ticking. And that's distracted you away from thinking about the dang fork. Okay, your first thought is going to be, don't think about the clock. No, think about the clock for a moment. It's ticking. Okay. Back to the fork. Okay. Because now you're becoming mindfully aware. You're learning how to focus the brain, focus your thoughts, focus your intentions. Okay? Now, this all sounds really silly, but here's why you start out with the simple things like a fork. If you have ever been in a sport, music, theater, anything like that, what did you do? You practiced, right? Let's say you were trying out for the football team. If you had never practiced football a day in your life, do you think you would have made the team? Do you think you would have made the winning touchdown? Probably not. If you don't practice your lines, before the play, you're going to screw it up. Okay? So when it comes to being mindful, when you first start practicing, it feels really silly. It does. I mean, who focuses in that hard on a fork? But if you don't practice before a craving hits, you're not going to make the cut. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that addicts do, is they don't practice these tools before a craving happens. So then when the emotional tide is up, they can't do it. They freeze. Now, the next part of this is non-judgmentally. After you have practiced being mindful of breathing, clocks, and inanimate objects, practice being mindful of your emotions. Now, the example here I'm going to give is when you're upset. Be mindful of that. Your first thought is going to be, I shouldn't be upset, that's bad. Well, that's normal, okay? But you don't want to just push that away as though it's not okay. Because what's going to happen is you're going to feel worse. You're going to be even more upset. That's where you turn your pain into suffering. Remember what Nietzsche said? Don't turn it into suffering. You focus on the emotion, because the fact of the matter is you're upset, and that's okay. Experience it. Focus on it. If you're crying, feel the tears running down your cheeks. Feel your heartbeat, the breathing, the intense feelings that you get when you're really upset about something. Sit with yourself and feel it. I mean, it's not fun to feel upset, but just for a couple of minutes, experience it and allow it to happen. Because after you experience it, you can let it go. Okay. If you've ever seen the movie Inception, then you remember the example of when one of the characters says, what if I say, don't think about elephants? Now, what are you thinking about? Elephants. Okay. And the more you try not to think about elephants, the more you're going to think about elephants. Okay, so tell yourself, don't feel upset. The more you do that, the more your brain is going to be distracted by that, and not want to let it go. So like I said, experience it, and then you can move on. Now, experience it, don't dwell on it, don't fuel it, do something about it. Whether that be, distracting yourself because you can't do anything about it right now, distract yourself with something that you enjoy doing. Otherwise, if you can do something about it right away, get to it and start doing something about it. See, when you get good at this whole mindfulness bit, you essentially become an observer to how you react to experiences. Now, you can't change the outcome. You can't necessarily predict the outcome. But you become aware of what contributed to the outcome that you had control over. And so then you can learn what worked and what didn't work. So let's go back to the example of marriage. Okay, so you were aware of all the moments that led up to you saying, I do. And now, years later, you're aware of everything leading up to the moment of saying, I don't anymore. Okay. You get divorced, it's finalized, and you think, man, I'm not ever going to get with a person like that again because it was horrible. Okay. Guess what? You were aware of the contributions. And now you can try the experience, a similar experience, and have a different outcome. And that's a big purpose of mindfulness. The biggest purpose of mindfulness is to turn the suffering down so that you don't suffer. You just experience the pain. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. Get home.